Hey guys, this is a book review for The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I loved this book. I picked it up because I saw a bunch of other people reading it and I got a little curious. I hadn't been reading nonfiction in a while, so I was wondering why this had caught my attention. And I'm really glad I did. This was a great story. Roughly, it's a story of someone who comes from nothing and then rises up to be a star in the 1950s. That's when she really shines, and then she continues on 60s, 70s. So that makes you think of like Marilyn Monroe, Elizabeth Taylor, people like that. What's interesting comparing to Marilyn Monroe, she really has this, she dyes her hair blonde. She was a Cuban from nothing, and her dad was a little abusive. Her mom died, and then she made her way to Hollywood, dyed her hair blonde, and this book is about the story of how she ended up rising up and then how she stayed at the top. So what makes her a really interesting character is that she does have some, like, I don't know if conniving is the right word. She gets really strategic and is willing to do things that the average person wouldn't be willing to do, and that's how she keeps rising up even after there's like a lot of drama with like all the different husbands that she has. One of them is abusive, and so you have this empathy for her, and then as she's trying to problem solve, she'll come up with ideas that are maybe clever is a good word, that can be something that maybe you would question the morality of, but then in the context of what she's dealing with, there's something that you kind of respect about her at the same time, and that happens over and over again. So that's why this Evelyn character is really interesting. And then on top of that, even though this is a fiction, you get, it's almost like it's historically accurate because it's set in Hollywood in that era when they really were like shaping starlets, more so than today, I think. And deciding what their hair color would be, where they would go to lunch, and they would send photographers to make stories that helped these studios create stars that were like a product. So it was like this combo of being, once you rise to the top, of being so powerful but also being very controlled by the studio and by your public perception. And then I don't think I'm giving it away because you do learn this pretty early in the story, but she ends up falling in love with a woman, which is unacceptable in that era. It would be career suicide for her for sure, but also in that era, more so than today, they would have to be in fear of being physically harmed. And then when she had a kid, she would have to be in fear of the kid being taken. So she had to like hide this big part of her for a long period of time or try and push it away. And so that's another layer of drama when she pushes it away and gets more husbands, and how that plays out. It's super interesting. I love the dynamic. I don't think I gave away too much in sharing that because you do learn a lot early on, but I did want to tell you about that because when I first glanced at this, I thought, okay, it's a story of some rich star that's fictional. This story is actually super fascinating, and it says a lot about our culture, or what's changed and what hasn't changed, because it's set in a context that was real. So even though it's a fictional story, there's so much to think about in the real world. So I absolutely love this. I thought it was a great read, really well written. I love the descriptions. Yeah, she's a really cool, she's kind of inspiring. or maybe she definitely is inspiring because she really goes after what she wants, even though sometimes her actions are a little questionable too. So she's really, it's really interesting to read this read from like a women's empowerment perspective too. So I loved it. I highly recommend it. I think it's super interesting. It ended up being inspiring, but not in the typical way. So really, really great book. I highly recommend it.